The forest encounter. The human lumberjack, Ethan Cole, was a giant of a man, his axe larger than most people's arms. He lived alone deep in the silver pine forests of the frontier world Volmore, a planet half wild and half colonized. Every morning, he would cut trees for trade, eat by his fire, and listen to the strange songs of the alien birds that glowed in the dark. He liked silence. It kept him away from memories of war and loss. That day, the forest was quieter than usual. No wind, no humming of creatures, only the crunch of his boots on the moss. Ethan stopped and looked around, his instincts whispering that something was wrong. He gripped his axe, his eyes scanning the shadows between the trees. Then he heard it, a sound so small, so weak, it was a sob. A child's cry, trembling and desperate. He moved toward it, each step careful, his heart beating faster. Behind a fallen log, he saw them. Two tiny alien twins, shivering in the cold, their silver-blue skin glowing faintly under the dim sunlight. Their clothes were torn, their eyes wide with fear. When they saw the giant human, they froze, one hiding behind the other. Ethan lowered his axe slowly, speaking softly. "Hey, it's okay. I won't hurt you." The smaller twin whimpered. The older one tried to speak. Her voice cracked, but her words were clear enough. "Please, help us." Ethan knelt down, trying not to frighten them. "Where are your parents?" he asked. The twins looked at each other, then at him. They're gone," the girl said, tears spilling down her cheeks. "They took them away, the hunters." Ethan frowned, his soldier's instinct waking again. "Hunters," he repeated. "What kind of hunters?" The boy twin pointed toward the dark valley beyond the trees. "Humans," he whispered, "like you." The words hit Ethan like a hammer. He stared at them, realizing the truth. The twins were not from any human colony. They were native Valmorians, a peaceful species rumored to live far from human eyes. But if what the child said was true, then someone from the colonies was hunting them. He looked at their thin bodies, the bruises, the fear in their eyes. Something deep inside him stirred. He remembered his own daughter's face, the one he lost years ago to war. He took a deep breath and said, "You're safe now, I promise." He took off his coat and wrapped it around them. The girl flinched at first, but then clutched the fabric, warmth returning to her trembling hands. Ethan lifted them both in his strong arms. They were so light it broke his heart. As he started walking back toward his cabin, the forest seemed to whisper warnings. The twins clung to him tightly, the boy whispering, "They'll find us, they always do." Ethan replied, "Not while I'm around," his voice firm like steel. When they reached the cabin, he placed them near the fireplace. The crackling flames lit up their faces, so young, so scared, yet so alien and beautiful. He cooked some soup, and they ate in silence. After a while, the girl spoke again. "You're not like the others." Ethan looked up. "What do you mean?" "The others shouted," she said softly. "They burned our home. They called us monsters." Her small hands tightened on the blanket. "But you helped us." Ethan's jaw tightened, guilt washing over him. He knew what some humans did on frontier planets, poaching, enslaving, or worse. He had fought for peace once, but peace never stayed. Now, maybe he could protect at least these two. As the night deepened, strange lights flickered beyond the forest line. Ethan noticed them first, green flares moving slowly between the trees. He stood, eyes narrowing. "Stay inside," he said, his tone suddenly cold and serious. The twins looked frightened again. "It's them," the boy whispered. Ethan grabbed his axe, stepped outside, and listened. The sound of engines echoed in the dark, men shouting faintly in the distance. He knew they were close, too close. The air turned sharp and electric. Ethan's muscles tensed, his mind calculating, his soldier instincts alive once more. He wasn't sure who these people were, but he knew one thing. No one was taking those children while he still breathed. He glanced back at the window. The twins were peeking through the curtain, their glowing eyes full of trust. He gave them a small nod, a promise without words. Then he stepped into the shadows, axe in hand. The hunt was about to turn. The hunters arrive in the night. The forest was silent again, but this silence was not natural. It was the kind that comes before a storm, before danger reveals its face. Ethan stood outside his cabin, the axe heavy in his hand, his breath misting in the cold air. The strange green lights flickered between the trees, growing brighter, closer, like eyes searching through the dark. Inside the cabin, the twins huddled under the blanket, watching him through the window. The older one whispered something in her language. A prayer, maybe. The boy just held her hand tightly, his small face pale with fear. Ethan turned his head slightly and gave them a nod, calm but ready. Then came the sound, a low, humming growl of engines. A hover truck broke through the tree-line, its headlights slicing the night. 3 men stepped out, their armor marked with the emblem of Frontier Resource Guild. They were human, miners, poachers, or maybe mercenaries, it didn't matter. Their rifles glinted under the moonlight. The leader was a tall man with a scar running across his mouth. He grinned when he saw Ethan. Well, look what we got here, he said. Didn't expect to find you living all the way out here, Cole. Ethan didn't reply, his gaze fixed and cold. You've got something that belongs to us, the scarred man said. Ethan's voice was steady. I don't think so. The man chuckled, taking a step closer. 2 alien brats ran this way, he said. They're rare, worth a fortune alive, double that if you deliver them to the guild intact. Ethan didn't move, but his jaw tightened. He remembered the children's bruises, their fear, their tears. You're not taking them, he said, his tone flat but dangerous. The man smirked. Still playing the hero, huh? You think you can stop us? Ethan lifted his axe, its metal shining like firelight. I don't think, he said quietly. I know. The men laughed, the sound echoing in the night. Then one raised his rifle, but before he could aim, Ethan threw the axe. It spun through the air, cutting the darkness with a sharp whistle. The blade hit the rifle, knocking it away with a metallic clang. The men cursed, scrambling for cover. Ethan ducked behind a tree, heart pounding, instincts burning alive again. The forest around them erupted with light and chaos. Energy bolts crackled through the air, searing the bark of trees. Inside, the twins screamed, hiding under the bed. The older one whispered, He's fighting for us. Her brother shivered, whispering back, Humans kill. Why is he saving us? I don't know, she said, but he's not like them. Outside, Ethan rolled through the dirt, grabbing his fallen axe. One of the attackers charged forward, shouting, You're insane, Cole. Ethan swung, the axe hitting the man's chest plate, knocking him down hard. He didn't kill, he just wanted them to stop, but these men didn't stop easily. Another bolt burned past him, grazing his arm. Pain flared, but he ignored it, moving like a beast of instinct. He had fought worse. Wars, riots, survival on dead planets. This was nothing compared to the ghosts he already carried. Finally, silence fell again. The men retreated, dragging their injured friend. We'll be back, Cole, the leader shouted from the hover truck. And when we do, you'll wish you never got in our way. The truck roared off into the night, disappearing among the black trees. Ethan stood still for a long moment, chest rising and falling, sweat and rain mixing on his face. He turned toward the cabin slowly. When he opened the door, the twins ran to him, their small hands trembling. You're hurt, the girl whispered, looking at his bleeding arm. Ethan smiled faintly. Just a scratch. The boy stared at him in awe. Why did you help us? Ethan paused, his voice low. Because no one helped me when I needed it most. He sat by the fire again, wrapping his wound with a strip of cloth. Outside, thunder rolled in the distance. The forest was whispering again, but this time, the whispers felt alive, watching, waiting. Something out there had seen the fight. As the children drifted into uneasy sleep, Ethan looked out through the window. In the far darkness, glowing shapes moved silently between the trees. Not humans, not machines, something else, something ancient. Their eyes shimmered faintly like starlight. Ethan's pulse slowed, his instincts alert again. He realized the poachers weren't the only ones hunting tonight. Something else was coming, and it wasn't human. The spirits of the forest awakened. The storm rolled across the mountains, lightning flashing like silver veins in the sky. Ethan sat awake by the dying fire, the twins sleeping beside him, their soft breathing barely audible under the thunder. He couldn't rest, not after what he'd seen. Out there in the forest, beyond the reach of his firelight, something had been moving, watching, breathing with the trees. He stood up quietly, stepping outside, his boots sinking into the wet soil. The rain had stopped, but mist still clung to the ground like a living thing. The air smelled strange, like metal and wildflowers mixed together. He could feel eyes on him, though the woods seemed empty. "Show yourself," he muttered, his voice low, steady. For a long moment, nothing answered. Then, from the darkness, faint blue lights began to appear. One, then two, then dozens. Shapes moved among the mist, tall and slender, their bodies glowing faintly like crystal shadows. Ethan gripped his axe, but didn't raise it. The shapes stepped closer until he could see their faces, ancient, calm, and not entirely solid. They weren't creatures of flesh, but energy, spirits of Valmore's forest, guardians whispered about in old mining tales. No one had ever seen them and lived to tell. The tallest spirit's voice came like wind through glass. "You protect what is ours, human," it said. Ethan blinked, unsure if it was speaking aloud or inside his mind. "I protect 2 children," he answered quietly. "They needed help." The spirit tilted its head, light rippling through its form. "They are of our blood," it said, "the last heirs of the ancient kin. If they die, this world will fall silent." Ethan's heart thudded. Heirs. The spirit stepped closer, the air trembling around it. "The twins are not ordinary children. They carry the bond to Valmore itself." Ethan frowned, trying to understand. "They're just kids," he said, scared and hungry. The spirit's eyes burned brighter. "Their fear is a scar made by your kind." Ethan lowered his head, guilt pressing on him. "I'm not like them." The wind shifted, carrying a sound, a distant mechanical hum. The spirit turned toward it, the light around it flickering. "The hunters return," it said, "and they bring death's fire." Ethan stepped forward. "Then help me stop them." For a heartbeat, silence filled the air. Then the spirit extended its arm, light curling like smoke around his chest. Ethan felt warmth, strength, and a strange pulse in his veins. "Take the mark," the voice said. "It will bind your will to ours. Use it to defend the children." He looked down and saw faint blue lines glowing across his skin. The energy hummed through his muscles like living fire. Ethan gasped, half in awe, half in fear. "What did you do to me?" "You asked for strength," the spirit said, fading back into the mist. "Now you have it." When he turned, the spirits were gone, their light dissolving into the fog. Only the forest remained, quiet, cold, and watching. Ethan took a deep breath and went back to the cabin. The twins were awake, their eyes wide with worry. "What happened?" the girl asked. "We saw lights." Ethan crouched beside her, his voice gentle. "They're not here to hurt us." The boy looked at his arm, eyes widening. "Your skin, it's glowing." Ethan looked down. Faint blue veins pulsed under his flesh like stars beneath water. "I guess," he said quietly, "the forest trusts me now." Outside, thunder rolled again, but this time it wasn't from the sky. It was the sound of approaching machines. Far in the valley, the guild's hover tanks were moving through the trees. Dozens of men, searchlights scanning the woods, weapons charged. Ethan's jaw tightened, his heart pounding like a drum. He looked at the twins, who now stood beside him, their faces pale but brave. "We can't run," he said, "but we can make them wish they never came here." The girl's eyes glowed softly, and she touched his arm. The mark on his skin flared brighter. The cabin's lanterns flickered as if something unseen had answered her touch. Outside, the forest began to stir, roots shifting under the soil, trees creaking as if alive. Ethan gripped his axe, now faintly shimmering with the same blue light. He gave the children a firm nod. "Stay behind me," he said, his voice calm, steady, almost frightening in its quiet power. As the first searchlights reached his clearing, Ethan stepped out into the open, his glowing mark pulsing like the heartbeat of the forest itself. The human hunters saw him and froze, their laughter fading. They didn't yet know. They weren't the ones hunting anymore. The forest fights back. The night was no longer silent. Engines growled through the darkness, their rumble echoing like thunder rolling across the valley. Dozens of armored humans advanced through the mist, flashlights cutting through the fog. They thought they were hunting 2 alien children and 1 stubborn man. But the forest itself had other plans. Ethan stood in front of his cabin, axe in hand, blue veins glowing faintly under his skin. The mark from the forest spirits pulsed like a heartbeat, connecting him to everything around: trees, wind, even the soil beneath his boots. Behind him, the twins stood at the door, watching in silence, their small, glowing hands trembling. "Stay inside," Ethan said softly. "And no matter what happens, don't be afraid." The first of the hunters appeared, rifles raised, armor shining under their spotlights. Their leader, the scarred man, smirked when he saw Ethan. "Step aside, Cole," he shouted. "You can't fight the guild." Ethan's reply was calm, his voice deep as thunder. "I'm not fighting for a guild," he said. "I'm fighting for what's right." Laughter echoed from the men, harsh and cruel. Then one raised his rifle. "Take him down." Before the shot could fire, the ground itself moved. Roots burst through the soil, thick and fast, wrapping around the soldier's legs and dragging him screaming into the earth. The hunters stumbled back, panic flashing across their faces. "What the hell?" someone shouted. The trees began to shift, their branches creaking. The forest was waking up, ancient and angry. Ethan took a step forward, the blue glow on his arms spreading to his axe. With one swing, he sent a shockwave through the ground. Cracks spread like lightning, knocking men off their feet. Energy surged through him, wild but alive. He could feel the forest guiding his movements, whispering through every strike, every breath. One soldier fired, the bolt hitting Ethan's shoulder, but the light absorbed it. The wound sealed within seconds, glowing brighter than before. The scarred leader cursed. "He's bonded to the planet. Shoot the cabin." Ethan's eyes turned cold. "Don't," he said, voice low. But they didn't listen. One of them launched a plasma grenade toward the cabin. Before it could hit, a wall of thick vines erupted from the ground, blocking the explosion. The shockwave sent green fire through the air, and when the smoke cleared, the vines were still there, burned but standing. Ethan turned toward the attackers, fury burning behind his calm face. "You brought war to their home," he said. "Now the home is fighting back." He charged forward like a storm. The axe gleamed under the moonlight, slicing through weapons, armor, and the machines that dared to stand in his way. Each swing was followed by a rush of blue light, roots breaking through the earth, wrapping around fallen enemies. The forest roared with him. The wind howled, the trees groaned, the soil cracked open. Inside the cabin, the twins pressed their hands together, eyes glowing brighter. Their energy flowed into the ground, merging with Ethan's mark. The spirit's whispers filled the air again, soft, powerful, ancient. "The bond is strong," they said. "The guardian has awakened." Outside, the last of the hunters tried to retreat. The scarred leader stumbled to his hover truck, screaming into his radio. "Fall back. It's not just him, it's the damn forest." Ethan stopped, breathing hard, the glow fading slightly. The ground trembled one last time as the machines turned and fled, engines roaring into the distance. Silence returned, but it was not the same silence as before. It was the deep, heavy quiet that follows a storm, the kind that carries both peace and warning. Ethan looked around, dozens of broken weapons scattered, roots slowly retreating into the soil. He exhaled, lowering his axe. The cabin door creaked open, and the twins ran toward him. The girl stopped halfway, her eyes shining like stars. You called the forest," she said softly. Ethan shook his head, smiling faintly. "No," he said. "The forest called me." She stepped closer, placing her small, glowing hand on his arm. "You're one of us now," she whispered. Ethan looked out at the trees, swaying gently in the night breeze. For the first time in years, he felt like he belonged somewhere. Not as a soldier, not as a killer, but as a protector. But deep in the valley, beyond the hills, something else stirred. The guild's headquarters received the distress call, and the man who listened, the overseer, smiled coldly. "Send the war machines," he said. "If the forest protects them, then we'll burn the whole forest down." Far away, the wind shifted again. Ethan felt it, the forest whispering a warning through the roots beneath his feet. The true war was just beginning. And this time, it wouldn't stop at his cabin. The war machines of the guild. The morning sun rose weakly through the smoke, turning the mist above the forest into a dull golden haze. Ethan stood on a hill near his cabin, scanning the horizon, his axe resting on his shoulder. He had won the night, but deep down he knew it wasn't over. The guild had resources far beyond poachers and mercenaries, and men like the overseer didn't forgive. The twins sat by the stream below, washing their faces in the cool water, their laughter soft but uncertain. For a brief moment, Ethan allowed himself to smile, watching them. They looked so normal, just two children, giggling, playing with stones. Yet they were carrying something far greater than they understood. The spirit's words echoed in his mind. The last heirs of Volmore. Suddenly, the ground trembled, a deep vibration that rippled through the soil. Ethan froze, his instincts flaring. Then came the sound, metal rumbling, engines screaming like thunder. He turned his eyes toward the east and saw it, a column of smoke and dust rising in the distance. Massive hover tanks, guild insignia blazing across their sides, rolled through the valley like iron beasts. Above them, drone ships circled the sky, their red sensors glowing like angry eyes. This wasn't a hunt, it was a full-scale assault. Ethan's blood ran cold, but his grip on the axe tightened. He ran back to the cabin, the twins following close behind. "They're coming again," he said, calm but firm. "And this time, they're bringing everything they've got." The girl looked up, fear flickering in her silver eyes. "You can't fight machines." Ethan crouched beside her, meeting her gaze. "Maybe not alone," he said, "but we're not alone anymore." He closed his eyes and pressed his palm to the floorboards. The blue mark on his arm flared to life, lines of light running through the cracks in the wood, spreading out like veins across the ground. A deep hum filled the air, the same ancient tone he had heard when the spirits appeared. The forest answered. Outside, trees began to bend, roots pulsing with blue energy. Rocks shifted, the river changed direction, and mist thickened into a living wall. The twins gasped as their eyes glowed brighter, their energy merging with Ethan's through the invisible bond the forest had formed. He felt their fear, their courage, their hope. It all surged through him like lightning. Miles away, the guild's army advanced into the valley. Thermal sensors picking up movement. One officer barked, but visibility's down to 0. The overseer's voice came through the calm and cruel. "Burn everything that moves," he ordered. "The man and the aliens are to be taken alive if possible, but don't hesitate to destroy the forest." Flames burst from the tanks, igniting the mist. But the fire didn't spread. It curled back on itself, extinguished by walls of wet moss that rose like shields. The first drone fired a missile, but vines whipped up from below, slamming into its hull and dragging it out of the sky. The explosion shook the valley, and the guild soldiers panicked, shouting through static-filled radios. Ethan watched from the tree-line, his expression cold but determined. He raised his glowing axe, and the forest moved with him. When he swung it, wind rushed through the branches, carrying leaves like blades, cutting through armor and metal. Every motion felt natural, as if he and the planet were one heartbeat. The twins stood behind him, chanting softly in their language. Light surrounded them, rising into the air like silver dust. The forest's spirits returned, faint shapes gliding between the trees, their presence bending reality itself. Their leader spoke, voice echoing through Ethan's mind. "The forest will fight, but you must guide it. Its rage is endless, and rage can destroy even what it loves." Ethan nodded, tightening his grip. "Then I'll be its hand, not its anger," he said. The battle turned fierce, explosions shaking the ground, roots shattering steel, and blue light clashing against red plasma. The sky above turned dark from smoke, yet through it all, Ethan stood like an unmovable mountain. When the last drone fell burning into the river, a heavy silence followed. The guild's front line had been crushed, their soldiers scattered, their machines broken by a world they could not control. Ethan dropped to one knee, exhausted, his body trembling but alive. The twins ran to him, hugging him tightly, tears streaming down their cheeks. "You did it," the girl whispered. Ethan smiled faintly. "No," he said, "we did." But far away, the overseer watched through a live feed, his eyes cold and calculating. "So," he muttered, "the planet itself protects him." He turned to his second-in-command. "Prepare the arc breaker. If nature wants to fight, we'll erase nature itself." The overseer's ship hovered above the horizon, glowing red like a demon star. And as the first storm winds carried its echo toward Ethan's cabin, the forest whispered a single word into his mind. Run! The Arcbreaker descends. The wind screamed like a living thing as the sky turned crimson. Ethan looked up, and his breath caught. A massive shadow drifted through the clouds, its size blotting out the sun. It wasn't a ship, it was a monster of metal. The Arcbreaker, the guild's most destructive weapon, built to erase entire ecosystems. The forest fell silent as the monstrous craft floated overhead, its hull glowing with molten energy veins. Beneath it, trees bent and cracked under invisible pressure. Even the spirits that had guarded Volmore for centuries drew back into the mist, whispering, "The destroyer returns." Ethan's mark began to burn with light, searing through his veins like fire. He stumbled, gripping his chest as visions flashed before his eyes. Planets turned to ash, oceans boiled away, cities devoured by light. He understood now. The Arcbreaker wasn't just a weapon, it was extinction, and it was meant for them. The twins rushed to him, fear shining in their bright eyes. The girl cried, "They'll kill everyone. They'll burn the forest." Ethan knelt and took her hands, his voice steady even as the ground shook beneath them. "Not if I stop them." The boy tugged his arm, desperate. "You can't fight the sky." Ethan gave a faint, grim smile. "Then I'll bring the sky down." He turned toward the treeline, the glow on his arm now spreading across his chest and neck. The bond with the forest deepened, roots pulsing beneath his feet. Every breath of wind carried whispers. "Guardian, protector, our strength is yours." The spirits surrounded him again, their lights swirling like a storm of stars. The lead spirit stepped forward, its voice trembling like 1,000 echoes. "Human, you cannot destroy the Arcbreaker. It feeds on power, on the life of the world." Ethan clenched his fists. "Then I'll give it something it can't swallow." He closed his eyes, and for the first time, he spoke to the planet itself. "I don't need you to fight," he said softly. "I need you to trust me." The ground pulsed once beneath him, as if the entire world nodded. High above, the Arcbreaker opened its core, a circle of blinding red light forming beneath its hull. The Overseer's voice echoed through loudspeakers, arrogant and calm. "Ethan Cole, former soldier of Earth Command, you have interfered with guild property and destroyed our assets. You and your alien pets will burn for this." Ethan looked up at the hovering fortress, his jaw set. "You think I'm afraid of you?" he shouted, his voice echoing through the valley. "You're a man hiding behind metal. Come down here and bleed with us." The Overseer only laughed, and the Arcbreaker unleashed its fury. A beam of red plasma shot downward, hitting the forest with a thunderous roar. But before it could spread, the trees themselves rose, roots, bark, and glowing vines forming a colossal shield that covered the valley. The light crashed against it, shaking the earth, but failing to break through. Ethan's veins blazed brighter, the marks spreading like fire across his body. He could feel the planet's pulse sinking with his heartbeat. He lifted his axe high, and it exploded in light. No longer metal, but something living, something ancient. A weapon made of the forest's wool itself. He leapt forward, landing on the slope of the nearest cliff as the Arcbreaker hovered lower. Each step he took, the ground rose to meet him, forming bridges of stone and roots beneath his feet. The twins watched from below, tears in their eyes, whispering prayers in their glowing language. When Ethan reached the peak, lightning flashed across the sky, illuminating his silhouette, half man, half myth. He swung the axe upward, and a column of blue light shot from it, striking the Arcbreaker's hull. The weapon screamed, metal bending, energy field shattering. The Overseer's laughter turned to rage. "Impossible. No human can channel that power." Ethan shouted back, his voice breaking with fury. "I'm not just human anymore." He swung again, the axe meeting the red beam midair, the collision shaking the heavens. Blue and red light twisted together, tearing the clouds apart, the forest roaring beneath them like a living beast. Inside the Arcbreaker, alarms blared, systems failing. The Overseer ordered, "Overload the core. We'll bury them all." But before he could, the forest itself rose, massive roots tearing through the ground, wrapping around the ship's underbelly. The earth held the monster tight as Ethan delivered one final strike. A burst of blue light engulfed the valley. When it cleared, the arc breaker was falling, burning, breaking apart in the sky. Ethan collapsed to his knees, the glow fading from his skin, his breath ragged. The twins ran to him, crying his name. Ethan! Ethan! He smiled weakly, looking up at the falling wreck. It's over, he whispered. The forest, it's safe. But in the distance, through the smoke, a faint red shimmer still glowed. The overseer's escape pod shot away from the wreck, vanishing into the clouds. And far beneath the ground, something ancient stirred in answer to his fall. The war for Valmore wasn't finished. It had only just begun. The last stand of Valmore. The valley lay in ruins, smoke rising from shattered trees, roots torn from the earth, and the arc-breaker's wreckage smoldering in the distance. Ethan sat on a fallen log, the twins clinging to him, their small bodies trembling but alive. The forest around them hummed softly, healing itself slowly. But Ethan knew the danger wasn't gone. If the overseer survived, he would return, stronger, with vengeance in his heart. The twins looked at him with wide, glowing eyes. You saved us, the girl whispered, her voice trembling. And the forest? Ethan smiled faintly, exhaustion and relief mingling in his expression. It's not just me, he said. The forest fought with us. And you too. Your courage helped too. The boy stepped forward, touching Ethan's arm gently, his small hand glowing. You're not like other humans, he said. You protect, you don't destroy. Ethan's chest tightened, memories of his past losses and failures pressing against him. I never wanted to be like the others, he admitted. And now, I have a chance to make it right. Suddenly, the ground trembled again, but this time it was not the guild. From the depths of the valley, a massive creature rose, ancient and powerful, its skin like obsidian, eyes glowing like molten gold. It was a guardian of Valmore, one spoken of only in legends, awakened by the chaos and the bond Ethan had formed with the twins. The guardian's voice echoed in Ethan's mind, deep and resonant. You have fought well, human, but the true test is not strength, it is protection and sacrifice. Ethan looked at the twins, then at the looming creature, and nodded. I understand, he said. Whatever comes, I will protect them. Above, the skies darkened, red clouds swirling as if the overseer's presence still lingered. But Ethan felt the pulse of the planet beneath him, the forest, the rivers, even the smallest creatures, all alive and watching. The twins' hands glowed brighter, their energy feeding the bond. Together, they were a force no human weapon could match. From the mist, the overseer's voice finally reached them, bitter and cold. You cannot hide behind your pets and your trees, Cole. Ethan stood, axe in hand, eyes blazing. I don't hide, he shouted. I protect. The guardian stepped forward, vines and roots writhing like serpents. Ethan swung his axe once more, sending a shockwave through the valley. The twins' energy flared in unison, light and life mixing into a force beyond any weapon. The overseer's escape pod appeared faintly in the distance, but it shook violently, as if the planet itself rejected it. He would not rise again easily. Silence finally fell, deep and heavy, the kind that marks victory but also remembrance. The twins hugged Ethan tightly, their glow dimming as exhaustion overcame them. He wrapped them in his coat, whispering softly, You're safe now. The forest, the planet, it all belongs to you, and I'll stand by you. The ancient guardian receded into the shadows, leaving Ethan alone with the children. Its voice lingered in the wind. A protector has risen. The last heirs are safe, for now. Ethan looked at the twins' glowing eyes, at the forest slowly healing, at the valley still scarred but alive. A small smile crept across his face, a mixture of hope and resolve. He knew the guild might return someday. He knew the fight for Valmore was far from over. But for now, he had made a choice that mattered. He had protected the innocent, defied the powerful, and awakened the courage of a planet. The twins whispered in their language, a melody of thanks and hope. Ethan nodded, holding them close. And under the silver pine trees, the giant human lumberjack, once just a man, now a legend, stood watch over Valmore. A guardian for the forest, for the children, and for a future worth fighting for.